On the warm-up problem, you're going to have 3, and then inside the parentheses, a 4 minus a negative 1. And then x is 3, y is 4. So inside here you get a 5, square it to get 25, multiply by 3. On the end you have a 12 from 3 and 4, so this is 75 minus 12, which is 63. Answer to the bonus problem is 47. Pick a number from 1 to 5. The winning number today is 4. Homework check. If you have it, bring it on up here. 8 people here today. 8 had their homework. That's 100%. Again, very good. Here come the answers. We'll check right and wrong, and then we'll answer questions after that. Number 1 is negative 5 plus 5i. Number 2 is 9 plus 21i. 3 is 22i. 4 is 0. 5 is 10 plus 22i. 6 is negative 24. 7 is negative 6 minus 8i. 8 is negative 36 plus 36i. 9 is 0. 10 is negative 30. Today's objective. Know there is a complex number I such that I squared equals negative 1, and every complex number has the form a plus bi, with a and b real numbers. And today's knowledge targets: define I as square root of negative 1, or I squared equals negative 1. Define complex numbers, and write complex numbers in the form a plus bi, with a and b being real numbers. Same thing that we've done. And this will be the end of this objective. Alright, so just say this out loud whenever you think you know the answer. What's I to the 6th? Negative 1, right. That's because I to the 4th is 1 and I squared is negative 1. If this is just a 1, it essentially cancels itself out, and we know that I squared is negative 1. What's I to the 3rd? Negative I. Here's a trick you can use to know which ones are negative I. You know that I to the 4th, I to the 8th, I to the 12th, I to the 16th are all what? 1. But if you go just 1 back from those in each case and come up with an I to the 3rd, I to the 7th, poorly written 7, I to the 11th, I to the 15th, that's where you're going to find your negative i's. So if you can find yourself at least getting to a multiple of 4, even if the problem doesn't have a multiple of 4, you know that 3 is 1 behind the next multiple of 4, that's where you're going to get your negative i's at. What's I to the 8th? 1. I to the 10th? Negative 1. The closest power of I that's a multiple of 4 in the exponent is I to the 8th. If you add a 2 to the 8th, that's where you're going to get 10. This is a 1, and we know that I squared is negative 1. What's I? Square root of negative 1. What's I to the 4th? I to the 2nd? Negative 1. I to the 7th? Negative I. Because you have an I to the 8th is a 1, and You go one back from that to get I to the 7th. That's where your negative i's are going to be at, right behind the 1's. I to the 24th. 1. That's because 24 is divisible by 4. Comes out to be an integer of 6, so it would just be a 1. I to the 30th. What's the closest multiple of 4 without going over 30? 28. So what is I to the 28th? 1, so it'll cancel itself out. What do I add to 28 to get 30? So it'd be a negative 1, yeah. I to the 2nd. Alright, so we'll review some of this stuff. What's the first thing I do to multiply these two things together?
Figure out what I to the 2nd is. I to the 2nd.
Yeah, you could do that. What's I to the 2nd? Negative 1. So we have a negative 1 times 3, and then over here, I to the 7th is what? Negative I, yeah. So now what do I do to multiply all of these together?
3 times negative 1, 2 times negative 1.
Yeah, we can do that. We can have multiply these to get a negative 3, and then multiply these to get a negative 2i. Now what do I do? Yeah, negative 3 times a negative 2i. Double negative means it's going to be positive. 3 times 2 is 6, and we just have an I. You have double negatives there. When they're multiplied, they become positive. So your answer is 6i. Another way you could do it is just go ahead and multiply 3 times 2 to get 6, and I squared times I to the 7th to get I to the 9th, and just simplify I to the 9th. Alright, you work this one out and drop it off up here. If you're going to multiply these together, understand there's a 1 right there. It's not written. So 4 times 1 is 4. And then I times I to the 3rd is I to the 4th. We know that I to the 4th is 1. So we have 4 times 1, which will be 4. In a case like this, when you have all of your i's multiplied together, and there's no coefficients like a 4i or a 3i, what you're going to do is look at the negative signs first. How many negative signs are in this problem? If you have an odd number of negative signs, that means you're going to start with a negative sign. If you have 1 negative, 3 negatives, 5 negatives, it's going to give you a negative quantity. Next, add up the exponents. What's the exponent here? 1. So what's the sum of the exponents? 6. So we're going to have negative I to the 6th. Now don't forget, you have the negative sign already there, so don't just eliminate it. You have to keep it. Keep that negative sign and simplify I to the 6th. What is I to the 6th? Negative 1, right. So a double negative gives me a positive 1. I'll do this one too. So you're going to multiply this item by each item inside the parentheses. Don't forget that you have to include the sign in front of that item. So when we multiply here, we're going to get negative 2i times I squared. What is negative 2i times I squared? Negative 2i to the 3rd. And then we're going to multiply 2i by negative I to the 3rd. What is that? Yeah, that'll give me 2i to the 4th. Are there any questions about how we arrived at that part? Okay, so from there, we're going to simplify. So keep your negative 2 and simplify I to the 3rd. I to the 3rd is negative I. Keep your plus 2 here and simplify the I to the 4th. That'll be 1. Now simplify again. You have negative 2 times a negative I. That'll be 2I. And then you have 2 times 1 is 2. I can't leave this in this form because it's not in A plus BI form. So what do I need to do to it? Switch them around, yeah. So we'll have 2 plus 2I. Bring this up here and drop it off. When I multiply out, I'm going to start here and multiply it by negative I to the 6th. So that's 5I to the 9th. Then I'll multiply this by this. That is plus 5I to the 4th. I to the 9th is what? It's just I. So that would give us 5I. What's I to the 4th? 1, so we just have a 5. But I have to reverse these, so the answer is 5 plus 5I. The solution for the bonus is 1. Bring this up here, drop it off. Multiply I to the 3rd by negative 2I to get negative 2I to the 4th, and I to the 3rd times 3 is 3I to the 3rd. This is a 1, so you're just going to have negative 2. And this is a negative I. So instead of plus, we're going to have minus 3I. And that's the form it should be in, so it's negative 2 minus 3I. If you're going to multiply these two quantities together, you got to start with this one and multiply it by each item in the second quantity. Remember, that includes the sign in front of each. So when I start out multiplying here, I would have a 12I and then plus, oh, actually that's a 12I squared plus 12I. And that comes from 4I times 3I and 4I times 3. Now you have to move to this one, the negative 2, and multiply it by each one over there. When you do that, you come up with negative 6I minus 6. Are there any questions about how I came to that step? Okay, now once you get there, you need to simplify where you can. This is a negative 1. I squared is negative 1, so that gives me a negative 12 out front. You have two I terms in there. You have 12I minus 6I. You can combine those since they're the same exponent. 12 minus 6 is 6. So that's 6I. And then you have a minus 6 on the end. Now combine your constants. You have a negative 12 minus 6, which is a negative 18, plus 6I. That will give you the answer. Add 2. There we go. How did I end up with 2 I squares? There should only be 1 I squared. 3I squared. What on earth? I meant to record that, but I didn't. I just stated that I'd put a square there in on the end for no reason whatsoever, so you don't need that square. That's why I stopped and wondered what was going on. So you just have plus 2I on the end. Now simplify. You have negative 1 minus 6. That's a negative 7. And then negative 3I plus 2I is going to be a negative I. So negative 7 minus I. Oh, that one's low. That one's high. Yes, Alan has it. Storms, that's 20 high. We got 8 of them in so far. Anybody else about to finish this bonus problem? All right, we'll give you a chance. Oh, that's high. Somebody else had that too. That's way low. Anybody else about to finish it? All right, if not, I'll go ahead and I'll show you how it works out. All right, bring this one up here. On the practice problem, start here, multiply by each of those. So that's going to be a negative 2i to the 6th and then plus 4i to the 4th. Now go here and multiply by each of those and get negative 4i to the 5th plus 8i to the 3rd. I to the 6th is a negative 1 times that negative 2 is a positive 2. I to the 4th is 1, so we're just left with 4. I to the 5th is I, so it's minus 4i. And I to the 3rd is a negative I, so that'll give us a negative 8i. Now we have 2 plus 4, which is 6, and then negative 4i minus 8i is negative 12i. 6 minus 12i. The answer to the bonus should be a negative 62. What's I to the 3rd? Negative I. I to the 9th? I. I to the 6th? Negative 1. I to the 12th?
Negative I.
1. 12 is a multiple of 4. So if it's divisible by 4, then it's going to be 1. I to the 5th? I. I to the 4th? I to the 3rd? I to the 6th? I to the 11th? All right, test tomorrow. 20 questions, 1 through 20 are worth 50 points each, and extra credit A through E is 25 points each. And you'll have the whole period to take the test and something to work on after it's over with.